Hi, I'm Jim.
And I'm Jeff.
Thanks for listening to the Stanching Tyranny Hour. Pour yourself a cup of coffee and pull up a chair while we start the march toward liberty.
That doesn't make sense. How does one march while in a chair?
Good question. You can figure it out. You're the engineer.
Well, stay tuned and we'll let you know on 1450 AM WPG.
Good morning, South Jersey. Glad you could make it here. Stanching Tyranny Hour, another Saturday.
Yeah, we're back again.
And we're glad you can make it.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Bob.
Yeah, good morning, Bob.
Good to see you.
So we have a lot, of course, we want to talk about, and glad to talk about it. Let's see, where should we start? Should we get right into it then?
Sure, why not? Why don't we give out the phone numbers?
We should.
We didn't talk to anybody last week. And,
yeah,
I'd like to hear
the
thoughts on the banking crisis in Cypress and elsewhere that we don't know yet about.
We're getting ready for it.
Yeah. So call in, give us a call at 609-407-1450, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, but I wanted to take a brief moment to talk about the gay marriage debate.
Yeah,
well, boy, we've been hearing about that all darn week.
That's all over the mainstream news.
Yeah, and frankly, I'm sick of hearing about it.
Yeah, I am.
For a real simple reason, and that is, here's the debate in my mind. Why did we give the government the permission to allow marriage in the first place?
Yeah.
In other words, why does the government have to...
It's none of the government's business. Is that what you're trying to say?
That's what I'm trying to say, yeah. That's what I'm trying to say, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, I know what they'll say, and this whole Supreme Court case is really about this estate tax that this woman has to pay.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Because her partner passed away, and now she's got to pay the estate tax.
So just describe the whole thing. That there's these two women, and they were partners.
Yeah, right.
They're in their mind they were married. You know, they were a couple.
Yeah.
One of them passed away, left a sizable estate, and the remaining partner was left with a tax bill of
like
$300,000. Yeah, well, a big bill.
It was a lot.
Yeah. So
now
the debate that results from that is, well, they're married and the surviving spouse shouldn't have to pay the estate tax.
Yeah.
And that's fine that that's the way they want to spin it. But let's take a step back and look at this. What should this story be in reality? What should it be?
Well, in reality, the story should be the immorality of an estate tax.
Right. Right.
You should be able to leave...
That's what the discussion should be.
Yeah, you should be able to leave your assets that you paid for, that you worked hard for. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For all these years, you shouldn't have to worry about the government taking a third of it. You shouldn't have to worry about that. Right?
Right.
You work hard, you pay your taxes, and then you die. Then you got to pay taxes on what you left, what you managed to scrimp and save after all these years. You got to pay taxes again for it.
Yeah. And instead of talking about that, we're talking about women marrying women, or men marrying men, or whatever the heck else.
It's what I like to call a false debate. It's a false debate. It's meant to keep you busy. It's meant to divide. It's meant to control, right?
Yeah.
And this has been the way it's been for a long, long time, and I can prove it.
Yeah. Well, just one more thing.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the federal government hasn't always been in the marriage business. Didn't it used to be that if a couple wanted to get married, they went to a church, their church, and the church conducted a ceremony, and your marriage license or certificate was a King James Bible that had your names in it, your new names, signed by the official, the pastor, dated, etc. And that was it.
That was it.
It was an agreement with the church and with God. It wasn't with a government.
Yeah, it's a three-way. Marriage is meant to be a three-way agreement, right? Between you, your spouse, and God.
Right.
That's what marriage is supposed to be.
Exactly.
Now we've contorted it into this government-sanctioned thing. Right. And that's the case for so much that we do today. for marriage, for birth, for anything.
Right.
And we keep giving government the ability to control these things.
Yeah.
And the question is, why?
Why? I just, that whole point, it really gets to me. And I can't help but think that it coincides with the whole founding of the Federal Reserve back in 1913. The income tax, the withholding. I don't know when it exactly started, but I'd be willing to bet that the timelines match up rather nicely.
Well, back in 1892, there was a debate going on at that time, and really it was about, should we establish a central bank?
Right.
And we won't get into all the history. We've talked about it before, but basically, there was no central bank at the time. Money was coined by coinage and mints, and you had your own money, and it wasn't controlled by a central bank. Well, they wanted control.
Right.
And there's a quote. I'd like to read it. It goes like this, quote, "Our top leaders are perfectly aware of the truth. They are presently working at establishing an imperialism of the capital to rule the world. But while they are implementing this plan, they must keep the people busy with political antagonisms. We'll therefore speed up the question of reform in the custom rates by the political organization called the Democratic Party, and will put the spotlight on the question of protection and of the reciprocity by the Republican Party. By dividing the electorate in this way, we'll be able to have them spend their energies at struggling amongst themselves on questions that, for us, have no importance whatsoever, and on which we only touch upon as instructors of the common flock."
See now, listeners, now you understand why we held no allegiance to a party.
Right.
And you shouldn't either.
And why,
because
when
this is all by design.
Yeah, and why when they have these debates on things like gay marriage, that they're meaningless, false debates, because it's all about control. It's all about the dollars being controlled, and therefore you being controlled. Let's take a call. We have Carl calling in. Good morning, Carl.
Good morning, Carl. Carl, happy Easter.
Yeah, good morning, Jim and Jeff. Happy Easter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, I say things in fun, and some people don't realize it lights up the phone. It's like, first thing I want to say is I called 3 women caller radio this week and tried to get you an extra hour. I did that. And one of the women, she tells the radio host, he's the guy that calls your station 3 women caller radio, and he knows it. Come on, she didn't have to rat me out. He knows who I am, and I didn't care if she did. That's for just the fun of it. But what confuses me about this thing is, in one hand, the Democrats, you didn't earn that money that you're trying to give whoever, your grandchildren or your children. We should tax the heck out of it. And that's what one hand the Democrats are saying. The other hand, here they are, they're for gay marriage. I guess I'll call it gay marriage. They're for it because they're pandering for the, I don't know, is it 3.5% of the votes?
Yeah,
I don't know what percent
is it that many? I'm not real sure, but yeah.
I can only guess it's growing because the population is growing, because they pretty much can't have children. Right. Pretty much. But anyhow, so that confuses me because they need revenue, and they want to tax everything again and again and again. I mean, we already know if you earned it, you've already been taxed.
Right.
And so that part confuses me a lot, because now because her significant other, we'll call her that, she wants that tax money back, and yet I'm there like, I'm confused,
Yeah.
That party that's for it now because they're pandering for the votes, and the president says he's for it now when he was against it. Hillary Clinton was against it; she's for it now, and it's like, oh man.
And so Carl's pointing out a basic truth is really, they'll say whatever it takes to say to get the power and the control and the vote.
And it's just to keep us busy. To keep us busy talking about things that really don't matter.
Yeah, so all these protesters that were down in Washington should have had signs that said, end the estate tax.
Right.
That's what they should have had. Instead, this meaningless idea of getting the government to bless a relationship is ridiculous.
And I've heard lawyers speak. They're for marriage because they're for divorce.
Right.
And they would like to handle them cases and make money.
Yeah. Why not?
They would like to get that $380,000. They would like to get maybe $150,000 of it by handling the case.
Right. Yeah. You raise a good point, Carl. The lawyers, they got the estate planning and the probate lawyers,
and all the
related lawyers and
accountants.
All that stuff. Yeah, what a big market it is. That's a great point, Carl. I agree with you.
And my point is, what I've understood is civil ceremonies
or whatever it is.
Yeah, it works fine for them.
Yeah.
Because then if they do get this, then they could your church, they would say, we don't condone that. We don't. Well, we're going to sue you and make you have to marry us, and it's like, oh man,
that's silly. That's like going to McDonald's and suing them because they don't have a porterhouse on the menu.
Right.
Yeah.
So you go to a different restaurant,
or they don't have turkey burgers.
Right.
I think one of the places is having turkey burgers.
Oh, good.
I have one word to say about that. Ew.
Well, what if you put turkey bacon on it? Does that make it any better?
No, it really doesn't.
No, it doesn't. I know, you're right. Well, I'm sure do you have any other callers?
We do.
Okay, well, let me give them a chance, and I tried to stir things up. And happy Easter to you.
Happy Easter to you too, Carl.
Yep.
All right. Take care.
All right. So it's a false debate, and that quote, by the way, that I was referring to, that was all the way back in 1892 or 1893.
And it proves once again how patient they are.
Well, it also proves that they really have no respect for you, listeners, as a common person.
Right.
That's why, Jeff and I, we tend to mind our own business. We don't really get caught up in, movie stars and singers and football players and all this and all that. Presidents. If I met a president, I'm sure they're a nice guy, but you know what? We're in the plumbing business. We know people for their base, you know what I'm saying.
Function out. Let's put it this way. They all use the bathroom. And so we just find that we, as a result, can't be all impressed that much with anybody. Right.
Because it's the same all the way around.
Yeah.
It's the same all the way around.
Right.
So, but see, they don't feel that way, the elite. See. They believe that they are so much better than you, and therefore have the right to make all these little rules and take your money right out of your bank account because they need it to bail out the bank.
Right. And that we, the commoners, we have one function, and that is to consume.
Yes.
We're consumers.
Right.
We're like we're like the ant farm or the beehive. You got the queen, and you got the nurse bees, and you got the worker bees, and you got the what kind of bees you got there?
I think that's all the bees.
Is that all the bees?
I think that's all the bees.
I think there's one more.
Isn't there drones?
Drones. That's
drones.
The drones. That's us. We're drones.
Right.
We do every Saturday morning.
Yeah,
drones at 8 o'clock. Drones.
Yeah, that's us. All right. Yeah, but so that's the way they think of us, and it's proven in their statements. You have this mess over there in Cypress. It's changed. How many times has it changed?
Well, it started out, 6% of all deposits, and then it went to 40% of, deposits over such and such amount, and then, this and that. It had to have changed 10 times in the course of a week.
And it changed again while we were driving in. I was looking at the news, and now, evidently, the Lakai Bank, which is the bank that's going to be basically shut down.
They're killing that one.
And they're putting everything into this other bank, the Bank of Cypress,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you had over 100,000, you're basically going to get 37.5% of your money of that amount over 100,000.
Well,
but not quite.
But not quite, yeah. Because the devil's in the details. That 37.5% that they're letting you have, or letting depositors have, I should say.
Right.
It's not going to be money. See, they're going to give the depositors equity.
So they're going to give them stock.
They're giving them stock in a bank. Now, I don't know about you, but if I were a Cypriot, I wouldn't be all that fired excited about owning bank stock.
Well,
right
really,
now.
the Cypriots aren't all that fired excited about anything. There's no real, like mayhem or riots or any kind of that. Everything's pretty orderly over there.
They must fluoridate their water.
They might. Yeah, I don't know. I would love to. I would love to find out why.
Yeah.
Maybe this weekend we'll dig into that little.
Yeah, I mean, the banks opened on Thursday.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, there were more news people there.
Yeah.
To film, the event than there were depositors there to make withdrawals.
Right.
And I was shocked.
Yeah, I was shocked too.
And granted, I know they still had a lot of capital controls on, right? I think they were only allowed to withdraw 300 euros.
300, yeah.
Per day.
A day. Yeah.
So that's not much. And I don't know, the banks have been closed for over a week.
Oh, well over a week.
Yeah.
So over 2 weeks, I think.
So what happens to the psyche? I for one thought the complete opposite. I thought that the longer the banks stayed closed, the worse the run would be.
That's what I thought. Now, maybe it is that the longer the banks were closed, the people figure out how they can make things work without money. Maybe that's what happens.
Yeah.
Maybe that they figure out, okay, well, let's take a step back. How can we transact business without the need for dollars?
It had to be cash, and if you didn't have the cash,
it had to be barter.
What would you do? Right.
It would have to be some sort of barter.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, presumably these people would still need to buy things, food, and all that. So I don't know. I'm puzzled. We'll have to look into that. But really the question is, why should anybody put a large amount of money in a bank at this point?
Not a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, and Cypress is the perfect example. The deposits over the insured amount were confiscated.
Yeah, and that's a game changer, people, because we've said it before. You don't own what you think you own, right? And we've usually been talking in terms of real estate property. Your house and your land,
real estate taxes.
But now it turns out that you don't own what you think you own in the bank.
Well, I think I read it last week, the quote from Wikipedia that refers to bank deposits and the fact that when you put money in a bank, the funds become the property of the bank, and the customer in turn receives an asset called a deposit account, and that deposit account is a liability of the bank on the bank's books and on its balance sheet.
Right.
So once you give it to them, it's their money.
Yeah.
You have this asset called a deposit account, and that has a number on it.
Yeah.
But you don't have that money. That money's gone.
Yeah, money I'm starting to realize is fiat money is a false idea, right? It's only worth what someone is willing to accept for it. For instance, over there in Cypress, if you have an account, quote unquote, worth more than $100,000, what's it worth? Not a whole lot.
Right.
Yeah, and we have this. Did you hear the Eurogroup president Joran the Jizzleblom?
Yeah, the Snoop Dogg guy.
Yeah, for shizzle.
Yeah.
Joran the Jizzleblom. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Chances are you're not
Yeah, chances are I'm not. Mm-hmm. But he had a quote, and basically said that what happened in Cypress will serve as a model for future bank bailout.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Great?
Yeah. So it would seem to me that tells me that he is just so happy with the outcome.
Well, we're
going to have to do this again because it was easy.
Yeah, well, he's just saying it like it is. His style contrasts with that of his predecessor, Jean-Claude Juncker, who's Luxembourg's prime minister. He basically sidestepped questions and things like that. But one thing he did say back in 2011 was, quote, "When it becomes serious, you have to lie. If you have pre-indicated possible decisions, you are feeding speculation in the financial markets." So
you hear that, listener?
Yeah.
When it becomes serious, you have to lie.
Right.
You know, it's for the common good.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, and then you got this Jorig Kramer, chief economist at Commerzbank, not Commerce Bank, Commerzbank, over there in, I don't know, somewhere over there. And he told the magazine what he believes should be done in Italy. See, Italy has their own set of problems, as does Spain, as does Luxembourg, as does Poland. They all are teetering over there. And what he had to say about Italy was, quote, "A tax rate of 15% on financial assets would probably be enough to push the Italian government debt to below the critical level of 100% of gross domestic product."
Oh.
Yeah, so he's like, "Well, we'll just take it.
It's only 15
will be just
cents.
Fine." Yeah. Right.
Less than a cup of coffee.
Exactly.
You know what they always tell us?
Yeah, so, I mean, you read these quotes, and how can you think anything but they're telling us what they're planning on doing?
Yeah.
It sure sounds like it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're all talking, these head elites are all talking like, it ain't no big deal, we'll just take it.
I'm impressed that they're being so candid, to be honest. I mean, you look at Cypress, and the president or prime minister, he was just elected. That's what I'm trying to say.
Only a few months ago.
Yeah, and at the time, you know, they were having financial trouble, obviously, and so the discussion of this banking crisis was already taking place. And he said, well, you know, we would never take depositors' money. It would never happen.
Watch when a politician says never.
Exactly. That's what he said. And what happened? Well, they did the opposite. So I'm just shocked that they're being so forthright. Yeah,
well, my understanding is they started working on this back in, like, February. And had started to talk about it. Some elite, big account holders saw the writing on the wall and got their money out.
Right.
Some Russians.
No, that's always the way.
Yeah.
And that's... Don't get me started. Let's go to Frank and Margate.
Good morning, Frank.
We're all fired up here.
Hey, morning, guys.
Good morning.
You know, you know, I guess when you live long enough, you'll see anything. I think what it is, it's so obvious that what's happening that I think people are just don't want to realize it. That and the one thing I've learned is most people cannot admit they made a mistake when they as far as voting these people in.
Yeah.
And I mean, the whole gay marriage thing, and you know, it's just funny how now she wants her money back, but she doesn't want to go by but they want to be able to have their benefits because they're gay, but they don't want to pay, even though I don't agree with the estate tax, I think it affects me personally. But it's funny how when things don't work for them, they go the other way on it. Like, you know, like they all bark and scream. They want to be married so they can get the benefits. But when it's in the opposite effect where it doesn't affect them positively, then they all jump up and down and want to change the rules. That's what really frustrates me about this whole thing. They just sit around and they think, well, let's how can we make things more difficult for people? And people go, these drones that just go around and they get their free checks and they get their welfare and they get this and they think it's just going to happen forever. And you just shake your head. And I have two young children, and I wake up every day and I'm like, it's just one other thing that keeps you looking the other way. If it ain't gay marriage, it's
right.
It's gays in the military. If it ain't gays in the military, it's gun control. If it ain't gun control, it's we're going to help you with your banking.
Right.
And then I heard an ad on the news, on the radio about Homeland Security having something to do with loans for your house. And it's like one big ball of web of this. It's a big money grab. And it's people put up with it, and it just amazes me that people just sit back and it's happening right in front of their eyes.
Yeah, well you're right, Frank, and thanks for the call. You're absolutely right. And it's all a distraction. It's meant to keep us busy. It's important for them to give us these issues, quote unquote, so that we won't pay attention to what's really happening around us.
They admitted it. You opened the show with the quote. They admitted it way back in the 1800s.
Yeah, and in the 1800s, we didn't have television, radio, internet. We didn't have any of that
It's
stuff.
only gotten easier for them.
Right.
I mean, wow. Right. With the growth of technology and television and cable and internet and all, it's just become so easy for them to create these distractions that Frank talked about. Yeah. And Frank's right. You know, you got kids. Your job as a parent is to raise them right and to raise them in a way that will honor God and make them good people. You're not raising kids, you're raising adults. Have you ever heard of that saying?
I've heard that.
You're raising adults. So, but in today's environment, with all this stuff going on around us, it makes it so much harder.
Right.
And it gets back to the breakup of the family and,
it's all connected.
Women's rights and gays and this and that, and it's just all it's for is to create division,
right?
And to keep us busy and to keep the infighting up.
Well, Frank made a good point when he pointed out the fact that it seems like this big old ball of yarn, how everything's all connected, and he's right. He's absolutely right. Everything is connected.
Right.
You know, if we were to ever get our hands on the end of that piece of yarn and pull, what a mess that would make.
Right.
Because everything is connected, and this bank in Cypress, right? These issues they're having will end up being something that turns out, I think, to be the end of that ball of yarn when it comes to the Eurozone and the economy and even the global economy.
Right.
You know, what if Cyprus is the thread that got pulled?
Right.
Right?
Yeah. The other thing that I like that Frank said is about denial.
Yeah.
You know, one thing about all the distractions that we have is it does make it easier for us to turn a blind eye to what's going on.
It does.
And, you know, whether it's voting for this guy or voting for that guy and then defending his actions. I mean, it happens on both sides of the aisle. Yeah. You look at George Bush's record.
Yeah.
It was awful. Right. He took so many of our freedoms away with Homeland Security and whatnot.
Patriot Act,
it continues.
Yeah.
And
Obama was supposed to be this left-wing, peace-loving guy.
And the wars.
Yeah, it turns out he's bombing the heck out of everybody.
Right. And instead of people fighting back and questioning it, more often we see people just defending it and not asking the right question.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, well, all right, what's really going on here? Why hasn't anything changed? He promised change,
right,
and we're still fighting these wars. We're still putting our nose into other countries' business.
Guantanamo Bay is still open.
Yeah, he was supposed to close that. Instead of asking those questions, they defend them and they call people who do ask those questions racist or whatever the case may be.
And see, and it's the whole team mentality,
right?
It's the whole I'm on the rope, and they even like on the news and things speak of it in that manner. Oh, we can't get have that team, control this and that. Right. When it came to this past election, the next president's going to be doing the Supreme Court. I guess that Judge Roberts really worked out all that great for the conservative, quote unquote,
right.
party.
Yeah.
If anything, I mean, don't these things illustrate what a sham government is?
Yeah.
It's a sham.
It gets back to what you said before, and that is that the people who are leading our country are people. They're people.
Right.
They're going to be giving in to temptations. They're going to be bribed. They're going to be tempted. They're going to be,
controlled.
They're going to be controlled. They're going to be controlled in ways that will cause them to do things that aren't in the country's best interest, but are in their best interest. Whether it's just as simple as saving face, a pride issue, or something much worse, like an actual scandal.
Right.
And the people that are in control, they know this.
Yeah.
They know this.
Yeah. The getting back to the whole gay marriage debate, it hit its pinnacle, I guess it was on Wednesday or so.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that has gone on unnoticed by a large degree is a law that was passed that evening, signed by Barack Obama late that night, was basically the Monsanto Protection Act, that essentially lets Monsanto do whatever they want to genetically engineer our food.
Right, without regard to health effects, right?
Right.
And that was my understanding.
Yeah, that you're not allowed to basically sue Monsanto if there's any kind of proven health effect.
Yeah, well, and it's typical. It's like Monsanto is almost like a government agency.
Right.
And it happens all over. You have the case up in Idaho that the couple bought a small plot of land on a lake.
Yeah, Priest Lake, yep.
Yep, and they proceeded to build a little cabin or something like that. EPA comes along and tells them, no, you can't build there. That's wetland.
Yeah.
So they naturally, they want to defend themselves and defend their right to develop their own property, which they own. They bought it.
Yep.
And so they prove that it's not wetlands, and they try and put it on the EPA to prove that it is wetlands,
and
by filing a lawsuit.
Yeah.
And then what happens?
They said, well, you can't sue the EPA.
Right.
And the EPA doesn't have to prove it.
Right.
Does that sound like the land of the free, listeners?
No, of course not. They make the rules and tough on you.
Right. Right.
Because you're not part of the rule-making class.
You're not part of the rule-making class. You're not part of the plan. See, you're just a little commoner. You don't understand the greater good and how the country's resources should be planned and spent and taken care of. Right? You're too small-minded.
Yeah. Well, in their mind, we're selfish.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They're not.
Right.
We are.
Yeah.
Because we want
freedom.
We want freedom, and that's just
freedom is
wrong.
inconvenient for the elite.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go to Pat and Ventnor. Good morning, Pat.
Yes, good morning, Jeff and Jim. Yeah, you were talking a little while about shams, and now I was listening to these people on the radio. Now, I'm pretty sure that they were telling the truth, and they were talking about McCain and all his cohorts, his entourage. They all went down to the wall there at Mexico, there at the border, and they were all wearing like khakis and blue blazers and these, wonderful hats like that saying that they were Border Patrol. And there was just a big old photo op. They didn't go anywhere near where all these people were like, jumping over the fence
right.
at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing, what the heck was it now? I've seen you a moment, but go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, we have to keep an eye on McCain and his cohorts. His cohorts are, Schumer and
Robert Menendez,
and that other guy that we don't like, Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey Graham,
right. Lindsey Graham, right.
Yeah, those guys. We got to keep an eye on them and their whole immigration reform, quote unquote. They had a nice little dinner with Barack Obama, and one thing that came out of that dinner was this immigration reform idea, and they all agreed that one of the best ways to handle that is with a nice national biometric ID.
Worker ID.
Yeah, so we have to keep a close eye on that, and this notion of a biometric ID, because it will require all of us to get this ID.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing I wanted to say was, I just remembered what I was going to say, that this fellow said that he and other people that were with him, they went and they examined this fence, the so-called fence, and it's a sham because every so often down the fence, there's like about 4 foot or 10 foot wide of all these spaces where anybody can come through. So the whole fence is just, if you look at it, it looks great, but if you go to examine it, it's not protecting anybody from anything. And I don't understand any of this. It's every day seems to get worse.
Right, and really the best way to control the flow of illegal immigrants is stop giving them free stuff.
Right. It's really it's not that hard.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
If they wanted to do it, they could. I think we agree on that, Pat. The fact is they don't want to do it. They just want us to believe that they're doing something.
Right.
Yeah, so it looks good. Yeah, I'm telling you. Okay, guys, great show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Let's take another call from Al in Atlantic City. Good morning, Al.
Good morning, Al.
Yes, good morning. The part about that fence is so that the animals can go through, and they're not restricted. So there you go. You got the environmental people worried about the animals being let through, and in the meantime, they don't consider that the people that are sneaking into the country can get through the same thing.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, we know how them animals can be. The grass is always greener. And that's the truth.
That is.
An animal will absolutely go bananas to get a blade of grass that's on the other side of the fence, even if he's surrounded by green grass right around them. Kind of like people.
The Monsanto situation over there is unbelievable. They have now created a suicide, what they call suicide vegetables and fruit, which means that they no longer have seeds.
Yeah.
After the first harvest, they die. And there's nothing they can't gather any seeds or anything so that they can replant next year. So the farmers have to go out and buy the seeds.
Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful? I mean, in God's creation, God created plants to procreate and to bear seeds of their own kind. Yeah, right? God doesn't say that in the Bible.
God didn't create Monsanto to create seeds. Yeah. Right.
So that really tells you that there is a darker power behind all this that's happening. Because if you stop and you analyze these things, it's all against God's creation.
It absolutely is, Al. Yep. Absolutely.
Amazing.
And we see it on the banking side, control of the money. All right, so they've got control of the money. There's no doubt in our mind about that. With this Monsanto story, they're getting control of the food. And once they have control of the food and the money, then I think the only thing left would be control of the water. So let's keep an eye on the water and, of course, the oil, the energy, which they already have control of. So things are coming together swimmingly for the powerful. And, that's just wonderful for us, isn't it, Al?
Well, I'll tell you, as bad as it looks, God has a way of making things, turning things around. And just, consider the Sandy and the damage it done, but how much, as a result of that damage, people, get woken up to situations that they didn't expect before.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not going to let this stuff come just turn around without involving himself in changing, because he says in the Bible that unless he interferes or gets involved, the world could destroy themselves.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely,
right.
absolutely. Thank you so much for calling.
Thank
Al.
you, Cal.
And Al's absolutely right. You know, it says in the Bible that this stuff will happen, but it'll happen on under his term,
right?
You know, not under the powerful elite's terms.
Yeah,
and you know, unfortunately, that this stuff will happen, and it'll lead more people to God, which is a good thing.
Right.
But the elite have wanted this stuff to happen for a long time. They've been trying to bring about world domination and world government for a long time.
And they'll continue to try.
Yeah,
they'll continue to try.
Absolutely. Let's go to Tony in Pleasantville. Good morning, Tony.
Hey, happy Easter, guys.
Am
I allowed to say happy Easter, or will the FCC cut us off?
Well, that might happen. That might happen.
Absolutely.
But
you'll probably just put on some sort of terror watch list.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they probably have a SWAT team across the street from the studio watching you guys.
Yeah, probably because we said the G word a couple times too many.
I think we did.
You know, this gay marriage bill. If this isn't backdoor politics, I don't know what is.
But I'm bump.
Yeah. But you know, this Jim Whalen. Let's take a look at Jim Whalen for example. Well, let's not really take a look at Jim Whalen, but he's trying to pass this mileage bill, and his reasoning is, well, people can just look at it as it's just another income tax. And he just blows it off as that. Well, it's just another income tax.
Right.
That's all it is.
That's all it is, Tony.
Yeah. And it's so that it's because these electric cars, don't pay the gasoline tax. So let me ask you this, Tony: how many people do you know that own an electric car? I know
you only got an hour show.
Yeah, can you count that high? Can you count that high?
10 fingers, right, Tony?
I don't know anybody. The only way they can sell them things is if they throw in a 100-mile extension cord for free.
Right. Yeah. Now, because of our business, we know exactly 2 people
out of thousands of people.
Out of thousands,
we know thousands of people. How many of them have an electric car?
2.
Yeah.
2. Yeah. So here's
do they throw in a couple? Jim Whalen also wants to pass. If you buy an electric car, you get a couple free shopping bags. You can use
that's a great idea.
You can use them over and over again when you go shopping.
Right.
Yeah.
So won't cost you anything.
You can hang them out the window of your car to help you stop. You know,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And you know, with this sequester kicking in, I lost my job with the. They did away with the program there with the fruit fry.
Say it is important scientific effort there.
Well, wait a minute. I turned around and I found another government program there that they're paying. Obama's paying for. That I'm in an apprenticeship right now. We went on the job yesterday. I'm a shrimp treadmill repairman.
Oh, all right.
I'm a repairman for the shrimp treadmills.
You got to get one of them set to the real teeny screwdrivers.
Oh, absolutely. Went on a job yesterday, as a matter of fact. It was really touchy because the shrimp was on the treadmill and he was going way too fast and he got part of his shell stuck in the wheel. It was kind of tricky getting him out of the wheel. We didn't want to damage his shell, but we finally got him out of there and saved him. So,
Good job, Tony.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than a cracked exoskeleton.
That's right.
You know? That's right.
But you guys need another hour. I got to go along with Carl. You guys need another hour because it seems like just when you guys come on, you're going off.
We're all just getting warmed up, and then it's time to go. Well, we appreciate the kind words, Tony.
Absolutely. Keep up the good work.
Whoever's
listening, who's ever controlling the strings over there, give Jim and Jeff another hour.
There you go. Come on now. All right, thanks, Tony.
Have a good Easter, guys.
You too.
So there was another thing going on. You know, we talked about, the gay marriage thing and what happened during that. Right. There was also during this whole Cypress disaster, something happened. There's some that say that the Cypress thing happened because of this other event, and that was a meeting between Russia and China. The Moscow Energy Summit, it was called. And guess what they were discussing?
Oh, well, let me guess, because just just last week, there was a meeting between China and Brazil.
That's right.
I'll bet you can guess what they were discussing there.
Let's see. It says the meeting, that although it received almost zero Western press coverage, at the meeting they detailed an outline of the sunset of the U.S. dollar.
Oh, that's interesting, because the story that I'm looking at, it was a meeting between China and Brazil, and they agreed to trade in their own currency.
Yeah.
Not in the dollar. Now, people understand the dollar is the world reserve currency. All trade has to take place in dollars.
Right. So
until two countries say, you know what, that's too much trouble.
Right.
Why don't we just trade in our own currencies?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what China and Brazil did last week. They drew up an agreement that they're going to trade in their own currencies to the extent of $30 billion a year, which is about half of the trading business that they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So China and Brazil,
right.
Now China and Russia, leaving out the dollar, right? Now, what's the China and Russia deal?
Well, the China and Russia deal basically is doing some energy trade between each other. Has mainly to do with gas in that case. Natural gas. Russia has a lot of
natural gas. Yep.
And basically, we have to wonder what's going on with that and how we in the Western news consumers are being basically lied to and not told about this, because it has huge ramifications for people. And one thing, I should go back a little bit. See, this whole oil thing, the dollar, you may have heard it referred to as the petrodollar. And the reason is because all oil transactions have to be made using U.S. dollars. That's why they call it a petrodollar.
No matter who the country is.
Exactly.
They got to use dollars to buy oil.
And this deal was struck in 1970. Now, let's reverse a little bit. We all remember, the oil shortage and all that. That was all a lie. Right? We were told that we ran out of oil. We didn't run out of oil. We had tons of oil up in Alaska.
Right.
The fact is that we made this deal with Saudi Arabia to say, listen, Saudi Arabians, listen here. All right. We need people to buy our debt. Nobody's buying it. So what we'll do is we'll buy our oil from you guys. Right? The oil that we need we'll buy from you. You guys will have control. You can name your price.
Right.
Set up a little cartel. You guys will name the price. Right? Name whatever price you want. It really doesn't matter. All right? Now, you're going to be making a lot of money by doing that, right? They're going to say, sure. All right, here's the deal. Any excess surplus money,
profit,
you need to basically buy treasuries with.
Sure.
Right? So if you sell us your oil, as long as you buy use the surplus to invest in U.S. Treasury debt, we'll be happy.
Yeah.
Now, what a deal is that? Because, see, that way, the Arabs are happy with a nice, high, profitable oil price.
Right. They can set the price.
Yeah. The politicians are happy because they keep these dollars rolling in because the Arabs are buying the debt.
Right. So that means more money to spend if you're a politician.
Yeah. So who isn't happy?
Let me guess. The consumer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the consumer is on the hook on both ends. They're paying more than they absolutely should for oil, for gas, for energy. And they're paying back the debt.
Right. And they're saddled with the inflation and that sort of thing that's all created from that. And inflation is what is common when you see deals being struck between countries to not transact using U.S. dollars.
Right. Because the debt still has to be paid.
It has to go somewhere.
Somebody's got to buy these treasuries, right?
Right.
I mean, because let's face it, our government isn't going to stop spending. it isn't going to decrease the increase in
the
the rate of spending.
They're not.
Let alone even decrease it at all.
Right.
So that means that there has to be a market somewhere.
And who is the lender of last resort?
Who is the lender of last resort?
The Federal Reserve.
Right.
Right? So they'll have to print more money to buy this debt, and then guess who pays for it? You do.
You do. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and this is going on right under our noses, and it's not even being reported in the mainstream media.
Yeah.
China and Brazil are now trading partners using their own currencies. China and Russia are now trading partner using their own currencies, leaving us out of the equation, which, granted, they have every right to do.
Yeah.
But we got to realize as Americans that this is huge.
Yeah, we don't have the control that we think we do, and everybody will blast Barack Obama and how did he let this happen and all this and all that, right? And I'm no fan of Barack Obama, right? But the fact is, you got to look at the whole picture, and this didn't just creep up on us over the last 4 years. Didn't just happen.
Yeah.
Now, evidently, the Obama administration did try to head this off using the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Right.
But they actually didn't have any success with that.
Yeah, because China said, well, no, we ain't doing that.
Yeah.
Right? Why should they?
Right.
I mean, why should they do anything with the most indebted nation? I mean, we're broke people. We're flat busted. Why would they continue to encourage that behavior when they can go and do business with a country that isn't broke, that is on the rise, right?
Right.
In terms of economies and power and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, you look at that. You look at the gold repatriations that's happening. Texas asked for its gold.
Germany,
yep. Other countries.
Yeah, Azerbaijan.
Yeah,
I just read that.
Did you?
I just like saying Azerbaijan.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of makes you sound pretty smart.
Well, and they do want their gold back. They want to repatriate their gold. And the Netherlands, I read that.
The Netherlands want their gold?
The Netherlands wants their gold. They want to have their own gold in their own stores.
Okay, well, I don't blame them. Because goodness knows, we have no idea how much gold the Federal Reserve actually physically has.
No, we have an idea.
We have no idea how much gold is in Fort Knox.
Oh, we have an idea.
Yeah, well, we have our idea.
That comes under the old Air Force private meeting joke.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's take another call. Good morning, Commander Bill Butler.
The brother Stanch, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'll be seeing you on April the 19th.
Oh, good.
The mayor of the morning. But
all
listen,
right.
that's why I'm calling. I heard you mention about Texas, and this state representative is putting a bill in, this Giovanni Caprioni, to have the feds release $1 billion worth of gold in reserve to go back to Texas.
Yeah.
So it's a little suspicious there. I mean, do they know something that we don't know, possibly?
Yeah. Well, one thing there's one good reason that these countries could be asking for their gold, and the state of Texas, and that is a lack of confidence in the currency system,
right?
The economies. Because if you don't have your gold physically, if you don't have it in your hands, then the politicians can create. Yeah, exactly. They can make whatever rules they want to slow down your ability to get your gold.
But no, this guy's saying it's not. Texas isn't going on its own gold standard, but he's saying that the state will be more financially secure. But how's that going to benefit the taxpayer in the state of Texas?
Right, right. And I say you have to read between the lines. When they're saying that they're going to be more financially secure, well, under what conditions would they be more financially secure?
Easy.
Yeah.
Very high inflationary conditions, because they're still going to have these pension obligations, right? And they want to make sure they have something. And maybe Texas is realizing that, you know what? having paper dollars in some account that the government can simply take isn't a good idea.
Right.
True.
Right.
True.
So,
absolutely right, guys.
Yeah.
But listen, I agree with that. Was it Tony said you guys need another hour?
Thank you.
We
Thank
appreciate
you.
that.
All right, we'll send that up the chains.
We'll get it done.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right. You have a good
All
weekend.
right,
Happy
right.
Easter.
You too. I'll see you.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
so the gold. So I think what's happening is countries and states and even people are realizing that even if you get a statement in the mail, it's not worth the paper that's even printed on,
right.
and that they desire to have a physical, tangible asset.
Yeah,
and that's the way we're moving.
Well, it's like a game of chess. See, this is a chess move on Texas's part. Yep. It's a chess move on Germany's part, Netherlands, Azerbaijan. They're getting their ducks in a row. They see that there's a currency crisis on the way. It'll be a crisis in confidence in the financial system, and that will lead to big problems.
Yeah.
When it comes to the world economy.
So when I see things like that, it makes me wonder. People a lot smarter than I am are making these big decisions. Maybe we need to start looking at how do we remove the influence of the banking system from our day-to-day lives.
Right.
And how do you do that?
You can do it too. You can do it too, listeners.
Yeah, pay your bills online off a kiosk. Buy necessities like groceries in case you need to reduce have stuff on hand. Reduce your bank account that way.
Buy precious metals. Physical precious metals.
And have cash on hand because they'll take it right out of your account if anything we learn. That's a fact.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week on Stanching Tyranny.